I remember the moment like a punch to the chest. I was helping Auntie balance her bills, hands trembling, heart hammering against my ribs. I reached for the pension check, the one she depended on, and it wasn't there. Just gone. My stomach twisted as I looked at her, eyes wide, confusion and frustration swimming in silent disappointment. "Where is it?" I asked softly, trying not to let my panic show. Auntie shook her head, biting her lip, her hands trembling just slightly. She always tried to hide it, but I could see it, hurt and helplessness mingling in her eyes. I confronted the family members, my voice steady but my insides burning. Their laughter hit me like ice water, sharp and cutting. They acted like they didn't know, like nothing had happened. Then my cousin leaned back smirking and said with casual cruelty, "Maybe Auntie forgot again." The words landed like a slap, echoing through the room. Relatives around us laughed. My cheeks burned, shame washing over me in hot waves. The betrayal wasn't subtle anymore. It was a public display. I noticed the small things, the exchanged glances, the barely there smiles, the way their eyes flickered when they thought I wasn't looking. This was deliberate. They had planned it. Auntie quietly retreated to her room, attempting to hide the tears I could sense pooling behind her eyelids. I sat just outside, hands clenched, rage and helplessness warring inside me. Every cruel joke, every past betrayal, every dismissive word flashed through my mind. The casual way they laughed at her dignity, the way they treated her as if her life and money didn't matter. It all came rushing back in a flood of bitter clarity. I made a silent vow, teeth grinding together. No one would humiliate her like this again. Not me, not anyone. Night fell, the house grew quiet, but my mind didn't. Every injustice, every taunt, every cruel laugh echoed endlessly. The fire inside me burned hotter than ever. This wasn't just about money. This was about respect. This was about justice. I sat in the dim light of Auntie's small living room, and my mind drifted through the years of her life. Decades of hard work, quiet sacrifice, and a kind of frugal discipline no one ever really appreciated. She had given every ounce of herself to this family, and somehow they had convinced themselves she owed them more. Childhood memories washed over me. The way she used to wrap me in her arms when the world felt too heavy, her steady voice telling stories of survival and resilience. Those moments shaped me far more than I understood back then. She was the one who stood in the gaps when my parents were nowhere to be found. She became my anchor, and her modest pension became the only thing she relied on for dignity in her later years. But I couldn't forget the small betrayals that piled up over the years, the subtle dismissals, the jokes whispered at her expense, the family members who rolled their eyes when she spoke. They undermined her not with shouts, but with quiet cruelty, the kind that seeps into a person's bones. And beneath all of it was a wound she never wanted to talk about. Once, long before I understood adulthood, she trusted someone with her finances. They drained everything she had, leaving her with nothing but the humiliation of admitting she'd been deceived. She never fully recovered from that. I could still see the shadow in her eyes whenever money was mentioned. Sitting there now, the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on my chest. I felt guilt for every moment I'd overlooked, every time I hadn't stepped in sooner, every time I assumed she was fine when she was quietly breaking. This wasn't just about a missing pension check. It was about respect, her legacy, her autonomy, everything she had fought to preserve. I remembered, with a tightening knot in my stomach, the first time I ever saw her cry over injustice, how small she looked, how the tears seemed to crack something inside me. Each betrayal, each mocking laugh, each casual insult from the family ignited something sharp and focused within me. The grief that once made me ache now sharpened into something far stronger. Strategy, purpose, a rising fire I couldn't and wouldn't put out. I stared into the silence and made a promise so clear it felt carved into my bones. If they wanted to play cruel games with Auntie's dignity, they were about to face consequences far bigger than they could ever imagine. I started quietly, moving through the house with a calmness that hid the storm inside me. I pulled bank statements from drawers, cross-checked dates, studied every line for patterns. I spoke to neighbors, mail carriers, anyone who might have seen something. I dug through emails, comparing their stories, noticing the tiny inconsistencies that slipped through when they thought no one was watching. They sensed it, my shift, my determination, and instead of backing down, they mocked me even louder. Snide comments floated across the room. "Look who turned into Sherlock," one of them laughed. Another smirked, "Still chasing ghosts?" They wanted me rattled. They wanted me to stop. But every jab only sharpened me. Sleep became a luxury. I spent nights under the glow of a desk lamp, scanning receipts, replaying recordings, documenting every lie, every contradiction. I recorded conversations with a steady hand, saving each word like ammunition. The exhaustion was heavy, but the drive, fear mixed with a strange exhilaration, kept me moving forward. Finally, I reached out to Ethan, a lawyer friend I trusted more than anyone. I laid out everything: the missing pension money, the humiliation, Auntie's past trauma. He listened quietly, then exhaled sharply. "This won't be easy," he warned. "They'll come after you if they realize how deep you're digging." A chill ran down my spine, but beneath it was a thrill. Justice was never supposed to be comfortable. I nodded. Let them try. Back at home, I began to see cracks forming. When I asked a simple question, their eyes darted. When I walked into a room, conversations shifted. Their laughter didn't sound as confident anymore. Family gatherings turned into battlegrounds made of smiles. They'd talk loudly, pretending nothing was wrong, pretending they couldn't feel the tension tightening around us all. I kept my expression neutral, letting them believe I was still the powerless one, while I memorized every boastful slip. At night, I replayed courtroom scenes in my mind, how the evidence would hit them, how their faces would fall, how silence would replace their arrogance. I imagined every detail, every angle. My focus sharpened until it felt like I could see the ending before it even began. The emotional pressure built day by day. Every smirk, every whispered lie, every attempt to belittle Auntie became fuel. I recorded what needed to be recorded, gathered witnesses who had quietly watched the truth unfold, and pieced together a strategy so tight it felt airtight. Through all of it, Auntie watched me with a kind of quiet gratitude. She didn't ask questions, but she didn't need to. I saw the shift in her eyes, relief softening her fear, hope rising for the first time in a long time. And that hope strengthened my resolve. The showdown was coming, and this time we wouldn't be the ones standing small. The turning point hit me on an ordinary afternoon, a sudden phone call, my cousin's voice dripping with arrogance. He didn't even realize he dialed me by mistake. I listened in silence as he bragged carelessly about handling Auntie's pension money, laughing about how easy it was to keep her in the dark. His words were reckless, smug, and exactly what I needed. My heart slammed against my ribs. Adrenaline surged so hard my hands shook. That was it, the final piece of proof I'd been hunting for. The last missing link fell right into my lap, handed to me by their own stupidity. I saved the recording and called Ethan immediately. When he arrived, he wasn't just a friend anymore. He stepped in as Auntie's protector, legal and unwavering. He spread the documents across the table, eyes sharp. "This is enough to escalate," he said. "If you're ready, we can take this all the way." For the first time in weeks, I felt a surge of power settle into my bones. Not rage, not fear, strategy, knowledge, control. I wasn't guessing anymore. I knew, and that changed everything. When I told Auntie, her eyes widened, a cautious spark glowing where despair once lived. She gave me her first genuine smile in weeks, small, fragile, but bright enough to steady my resolve. I didn't confront the family directly. Not yet. I let hints slip, carefully chosen words, precise questions, subtle smirks, and I watched the shift happen. Panic flickered across their faces, fast and involuntary. They were piecing it together. I knew something. Then, unexpectedly, a hidden ally emerged. A relative who had stayed quiet for too long pulled me aside and whispered, "I've seen things, and I'm done watching them hurt her." They handed over screenshots, dates, and a statement that tied everything together even tighter. That night, I sat alone, mapping out the courtroom strategy. Every emotional beat, every lie I knew they'd try to spin, every angle we'd hit back with, I could see it, how their confidence would crumble piece by piece. In that moment, everything solidified. I wasn't powerless anymore. The ground beneath us had shifted, and they didn't even realize how close they were to falling. So, confidence rose inside me like a steady flame, mixing with anticipation so sharp it almost tasted sweet. Revenge wasn't just possible now. It was inevitable. Courtroom day arrived like a storm breaking. Auntie's trembling hand slipped into mine, her fingers cold but steadying. Her gaze locked on me, grounding me, and I felt a silent promise pass between us. We would see this through. The judge called the session to order. Opening statements began, and I watched as their arrogance, a shield they'd worn for years, started to crumble under the precise presentation of evidence. Every bank statement, every receipt, every email meticulously laid bare our case. Each document, each witness, each recorded conversation landed like a calculated strike. I saw their eyes flicker, hesitation creeping into faces that once smirked so confidently. The room itself seemed to hold its breath. Subtle gasps murmured disbelief, every sound a confirmation that the power had shifted. When it was Auntie's turn to speak, she rose with quiet dignity. Her voice trembled at first, but grew strong as she recounted years of trust and betrayal. She spoke of sacrifices, of hidden malice, of moments that left her humiliated and ignored. Vulnerability wrapped her words in pain, but courage carried them to the room's edge. I interjected strategically, guiding the court through the deliberate fraud, highlighting the cruelty disguised as casual jokes, the malice hidden behind feigned ignorance. Every subtle lie they had told unraveled under the pointed questions of cross-examination. I watched as relatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats, squirming under the weight of undeniable truth. They tried to argue, to deflect, but every defense only made their guilt more visible. The judge's expressions changed, nodding, leaning forward, eyes sharp, absorbing the clarity of our case. Tension peaked in the silence between each statement. Finally, the verdict was read. Triple restitution awarded. Shock froze their features. Humiliation replaced their arrogance. Silence descended, punctuated by whispered apologies, futile excuses, and the heavy weight of recognition. Outside the courtroom, the cameras flashed, reporters eager to capture the moment. And there she was, Aunty, standing proud, victorious, her smile lighting the space between past pain and present justice. I felt it then. Triumph surged through me, paired with an almost unbearable relief. The burden of injustice, the years of quiet humiliation and hidden betrayal, lifted in that one undeniable moment. Justice had not just been served, it had been felt, witnessed, and honored. We returned home, the air lighter than it had been in years. Aunty laughed freely for the first time in what felt like decades, her shoulders unburdened, her dignity fully restored. That sound, bright, genuine, filled the house and settled into my chest like relief, finally made tangible. Family dynamics began to shift subtly. The smug smirks and casual mockery faded, replaced by hesitant respect. They avoided us now, unsure how to navigate the new balance of power, their arrogance replaced by caution. I found moments alone to reflect. Revenge had been necessary, but it was bittersweet. Justice, once delivered, carried a weight heavier than I had imagined, emotional gravity that lingered even in victory. Auntie began to use the money wisely. No more worry, no more frugality dictated by fear. She indulged in small comforts, trips she had long dreamed of, quiet luxuries that symbolized freedom. Watching her reclaim this independence was its own kind of triumph. I documented everything in my mind. The planning, the patience, the courage it took to stand firm against betrayal. Each detail became a lesson I would never forget. Some relatives approached, awkwardly seeking reconciliation. We accepted gestures cautiously, maintaining boundaries that ensured their respect was earned, not assumed. A deep, unshakable pride grew within me. I had defended someone I loved, honored her trust, and upheld her dignity. That pride was quiet but resolute, a pulse beneath every decision we made. Evenings became serene, filled with aunties reminiscing and laughter, a reminder that resilience could be rewarded, that suffering could transform into triumph. Legal closure brought finality. The lies that had haunted us no longer had power. Deception was behind us, its echoes silenced. And I learned the truth I had always known but now felt fully. The greatest victories are not counted in dollars or restitution alone. They are measured in restored dignity, reclaimed respect, and the quiet, enduring satisfaction of standing for what is right. I faced the camera, sunlight spilling across the room, warming the edges of the space like it's blessing this moment. My voice is calm, measured, but every word carries the weight of what we endured. I recount it all: humiliation, betrayal, the slow, meticulous path we carved toward justice. I speak of the nights spent planning, the sharp sting of underestimation, the anger that fueled each careful step. Being underestimated is never weakness. It can be the spark that ignites extraordinary victories. I saw it firsthand. Their arrogance became their undoing, their cruelty, the blueprint for their own defeat. Flashbacks flicker across my mind, cousins' smug faces at family gatherings, the tension in the courtroom as evidence dismantled their lies, Auntie's triumphant smile at the moment her dignity was restored. Every memory sharpens the truth we lived. I share the lessons we learned. Preparation matters more than impulse. Patience can be a weapon. Strategy can turn fear into power. And protecting those you love is the highest form of courage. Revenge is not about cruelty. It is about reclaiming dignity, about fairness, about ensuring that injustice does not go unanswered. That is the emotional truth at the heart of every battle we face. The camera pans to Auntie, serene and proud, a living testament to resilience and quiet strength. Her eyes glimmer with the calm of someone who has been wronged, endured, and emerged victorious. Never underestimate quiet strength, I say. Stand up, plan wisely, and justice will follow. My voice softens, carrying gratitude for those who trusted us and caution for those who choose to deceive. The frame fades slowly, reflection settling in. Triumph is sweetest not in vengeance alone, but when it restores hope, honor, and dignity to those we cherish most.